Hello everybody and welcome to the second half of the Jack the Lad podcast with Joe McTernan.
Hello again.
Welcome back.
It's nice to be back.
Yeah, I see you're still in the same clothes as last week.
I miss you. I missed you so much, Jack. It's I've been waiting longingly for this to happen. So
And
I haven't slept.
so, well, I'm still getting over what you said while we were off air.
When I said, I'll say it again. You're very good at podcasts, Jack.
Thank you.
And I'm proud of you.
That's all I've wanted to hear from my father all my life. I'm only joking, Dad. He's top supporter. He listens to every episode, so he'll ring me straight away.
Does he actually? That's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh,
I like hearing that.
Not the episode that dropped. The episode that dropped last week and week before. He sorted me that guy out.
Did he really? So you've got him working for you for free.
He doesn't stop telling people. It's ridiculous. Like everyone he meets, he's like, "Oh, my son's got a podcast, by the way. You should listen to it."
That's great, though,
get
man.
on it now. And they're like, "Yeah." As soon as they're, "Oh, do you listen to podcasts?" Yeah. Right, just go on Spotify now and just add Jack the Lad. Like, click the downloads.
Really?
Like, he's got it all down here. He just makes people do it.
What's your dad's name?
Gary.
Gary, you sound like a lovely man. Hello.
He is.
If you're listening to this one,
4 foot tall, but yeah. Right. So before we ended the last episode, we were talking about sort of self-motivation and making sure that you're, getting the little bits done to make sure that you think. And I totally agree with that because there is days where it's for me, because I'm a normal person with a normal working week, not just the weekends and whatnot like yourself. I say normal working week, I'm up at 4 a.m, so not that normal.
That's very abnormal to me.
So for me, obviously I can't do the dishes at 2 a.m. before I go to work. So all my stuff is done. I always make sure it's done before I go to bed at night, and then when I get back, as soon as I get back, before like podcasting or anything like that, I'll do all the sort of bits and bobs around the house, hoovering and all that sort of stuff, so that once I am sat down, I was going to say chilling out, but I don't really chill out because I'm either podcasting with people like yourself or I'm editing the podcast, which, as I alluded to earlier, I'm not great at doing, so it takes me quite a lot longer than it probably should. Or I'm sort of juggling, the kids and all that sort of stuff. I think the thing that I struggle with the most, which maybe you'll be able to help me, Beans, as in the last 3 weeks you've jumped up, is sort of getting it out on social medias. I seem to be terrible. I'll put like one video out a week, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you do one a week, or is that
episodes drop every week, every Thursday, but I don't sort of push it that much, to be honest.
So this is the thing. When I started doing my sketches and stuff, there isn't a sort of need to feel that you have to push it all the time, because what's happened is you've put it out and it's not went the way that you hoped it would go, right? So you maybe see you get 10 likes on it or something. So your brain goes, well, if I push it again, that's the reason that it's not worked or something like that. Where in actual fact, what I'm learning now is that none of it is wasted time. And I wouldn't have agreed with that even a month ago. When I started doing the sketches, I was getting a couple of hundred views on them. And, then I would be sharing them a lot, retweeting them, putting them back on my story, because you're wanting that feeling. But the thing is, it is just annoyingly, it's the consistency. So what you're doing is the right thing to do. And there's no right reason for any of it, but at some point, it will just, one of them will blow up or something. You know what I mean? It will happen if you're putting it so much, because that's what these sort of algorithms are looking for. They're not really interested in, if you only put one video up and then that's it, and if that went viral, say, there's nothing else for people to look at. And what these obviously platforms want is to keep their viewers on the platform.
Yeah.
So now I've got about 25 sketches or something like that. So if somebody just catches the one I did this week, you see them scrolling, you see the same likes, the same picture, liking them all, and the app loves that. So that's the thing you're going to have is that, it's going to take one. I don't know if you've had one that's already went really well, but, it'll take one or one clip that'll just, you'll just, if you do little clips on Insta, right? Like little snippets.
This is the part of it that I struggle with. Like, I do the whole video as a video, and then maybe this is for sort of an after, maybe not on the podcast that we're talking about this. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm just so singularly, just tunnel vision with making sure the podcast gets out on a Thursday at 7 p.m, make sure it's on all the platforms it should be on, making sure the audio on the edit is right, and I've, chose the right equalizers and all the rest of it like that. I'm so focused on making sure I'm getting it out, because that is my number one priority, is to get the podcast out. I've always said to my old man, like, even if he's the only person that listens to it, if my Spotify ratings is one on every episode, and it's just him, then that's what it is. I've never set out for this, for global stardom or anything like that. I just wanted to talk to people because I am very curious and interested in sort of the ordinary person with these extraordinary stories.
Well, honestly, I think the thing is, and what you're saying is completely, none of it's a waste of time. I mean, like you're saying, even if there's just your dad listening to it, it's irrelevant who's listening to it, I suppose, because every one you do, you're going to get better and you're going to get more comfortable, to the point that and I think, because this is what happened to me, there was sketches that hadn't had many views and they've jumped up to like 20,000 views now, just off the back of the other ones doing well. So now all this stuff that I used to think was a waste of time is now getting eyes on it. And I think people quite like seeing the journey of, and I also think it's very healthy. And I would never delete any of my videos now. I used to do that. If one didn't do too well, I'd maybe take it down and stuff. But apparently that's not great for algorithms and stuff as well. But I think it's good for anybody else doing this to see that not everyone works. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, as I say, I had the alien one got about 4.5 million on Instagram now. And the last few, one of them's got 40,000. The one I've just put up last week only got about 10,000. And it's like, it's not, I mean, that's better numbers than I used to get, but it's not always these big achievements. You'll probably get one of them now, like once in a blue moon. But it's what you were saying there. It is just, if you can, it's just for you. If you think that by doing this, so the Christmas tree sketch I was talking about last time, that costume, I nearly had a breakdown making it, right? I absolutely nearly had a little crimble breakdown trying to make this thing out of card and sellotape, and it just kept ripping. And it was on. I nearly cried 3 times. It was just one of those things that was so frustrating to get right. And now I know not to do that again. Do you know what I mean? Or next time I'm doing it, just buy a bloody Christmas tree costume. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to make the costume myself. But I still hadn't. So that's the other thing. So that one, obviously, I'm a green tree in it. I'm always using a green screen background. So obviously, I had to buy a blue screen for that sketch so I could cut out the green. So I didn't have a blue screen, so that's something else added. So next time I do something that's got the color green in it, I've learned how to use a blue screen compared to a green screen. It's stupid little things, but I think you're always learning. And by the time that I didn't even realize this changing for me, really. I sort of, it wasn't like an overnight thing. You sort of see the sketches getting more views each time, hopefully, to the point that I'm just kind of used to doing it now. Whereas there was a day where I would be looking at every video, phone in my hand constantly, upset that it wasn't doing well. Whereas now I realize that's just part of it. It's the journey of you've just got to build the catalogue of stuff so that when people do find you, they see that you've been doing this for a while. So that's kind of give me a better feeling. So that's what I would say to anybody that's doing stuff. Just keep putting stuff out. Because eventually, I never thought it would happen for me. I was like, I've done this for a good while now. Nothing's happened, and then it just did. And and it's not the sketch I thought it was going to do it on either. I had other ones that I thought were brilliant. They weren't. It's just. I think it's the way it goes.
Yeah, definitely. So you touched on it there a little bit. I seem to be really quiet in my headphones for some reason. No, that's better. So you spoke then about obviously your mental state.
Mm-hmm.
So you said obviously on when we messaged and stuff about you're talking about mental health and all that sort of stuff. Where did
Yeah.
that and your depression especially?
Mm-hmm.
Where did that sort of stem from? Because I do listen to a lot of comedy podcasts and stuff like that, and the sort of overwhelming majority of comedians seem to have
Mm-hmm.
had something happen as a youngster that's given
Yeah.
some sort of trauma that they feed off.
I think. I mean, see, this is the thing. I think mine was a bit of a sort of prolonged reaction to stuff. I didn't really know I had depression, and I quite like talking about this kind of stuff. I think it's good to be open about it, because a lot of people aren't. And I think even when I had it, I just didn't. You see a lot of things about speak about your mental health and stuff. Who's doing that when you're sitting with half a bag of Doritos over you, like tears in your eyes? You're not going to go, I'm going to phone my mate Bill and tell him all about this. Like, you just don't, right? But I think what does help is knowing that other people go through it. And I think that's all you need, is just to know that this stuff happens. But so obviously, like, yeah, as a child, I mean, like, I lost my mum when I was really young. I was only about 11 weeks old when my mum died. And I suppose that probably had an effect on me. And I was quite a strange kid, quite quiet, quite weird and quiet and stuff. And I think, I'd have always been really, really, well, I used to be really shy. I'm not bloody now, but I think that's what's happened. I think I was just squeezed all of that in for so long. And then I became a comedian. It's like, oh, look at me. It's like all of a sudden. But yeah, so it took me a long time to get sort of more confident. And then when I hit about sort of in my 20s, I think it was from a very young age, I always wanted to do something like this. I was, even when I was 14, I was in the house going, I just need to wait another 2 years and I'm going to move out and I'm going to go to uni and become a filmmaker. And I've always suffered from having too much of a plan. And I think you hear a lot about this in motivational things. And I think it's bollocks, actually. I think, the worst thing I think you can ever watch is Will Smith talking about how, I was up at 4 a.m. every morning. I was going to the gym. I was writing when I wasn't doing that. I was thinking other ideas. And I think that is so, it's good for him and stuff. I'm not having a go at him, but it's like that kind of attitude, I think, is really damaging for anybody that's got mental health problems or depression, because that is not how life is. I think if you've got one day a week where you manage something that you wanted to achieve, that's great. Like, and it should be hailed as a good thing. Your life shouldn't be this constant. I think that pressure and I think that's what happened to me. I had lack of a road ahead of me. I think I had developed all these ideas in my head of what I wanted to be and achieve. And when that didn't happen, when I wanted it to happen, I think part of my brain must have just shut down. And I had a couple of years where I was just aimless. I think that's when I think back about it now, because I didn't know I had depression. This is the other thing. I didn't know until after it, but I was spending so much time in bed, not getting up till 3 o'clock sometimes, just lying about what I'd done in the day. I'd sit and do nothing all day. And then my partner would get in and I'd just lie and say, oh, I did this, did that. No, I didn't. Like, saying I had written something. I hadn't written anything. Do you know what I mean? But it was like, that's when I realized. And I didn't even realize it. It's like, I think that's what I'm saying. And there was one day, and it genuinely was like this. I just clicked back. And I don't know if maybe it was the stand-up that helped. I remember when I started doing that, it really, really helped me. I was very lost before I started doing stand-up for quite a couple of years. And then just since then, I've just been, I think, having a road in front of me has helped a lot. And not knowing where the road's going. That's the great thing about stand-up and comedy, is you can't really gauge it. I mean, every gig's different. You can't always rely that your material's going to work that night. Sometimes you'll have a gig and it's all right and you're doing fine. And then one night you'll just have the best gig of your life with the same material. But there's something about that audience that night that just seemed to click with what you were saying. And then the next one might not be so good. And the unsurety of things, I think, is what's helped me a little bit. I think having too much of a specific goal in mind was quite damaging. because if you don't live up to your own expectations, I think you can shut down quite a bit. It's good to have, passions and little mood boards of where you want to kind of end up. It's healthy to have that. But for me, I think, I think but then the other side of it was just being so aimless that I just didn't know what the hell I was doing with my life. And, and then and getting older as well, when you hit 25, I remember thinking, I'm getting older now though to be the new guy in comedy, or or this new actor or anything like that. Whereas I've got to 30 now, and that stuff doesn't bother me anymore. It's not like it's all kind of fabricated shit. Really, it doesn't really matter. I think it's just I'm just at the point now where I make enough to do this, and I'm quite happy with that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and anything else that now comes is amazing. Like if I get any opportunities, it makes me really happy, obviously, but I'm not relying on them as much as I used to, because I think that's dangerous. So yeah, that's probably where it stemmed from.
Yeah. Oh, like a guest spot on the podcast.
Yeah, this is it. It's all been leading to that. I'm going to itire after this because can't go any higher than this.
No, you can only sidestep from here. You can only sidestep. You got Joe Rogan, maybe, or stuff like that. So you touched on obviously your filmmaking and whatnot. What's in the works at the minute?
Well, so I mean, so with the filmmaking stuff, I don't do anything big projects anymore. I mean, the only stuff I film now is my sketches. So I don't actually make anything bigger. I'm desperate to, but part of me, thinks, why would I bother doing that? Where I'm kind of making enough sort of impact with just doing a little 60-second sketch on my social media sort of every day. But I really do want to write a sitcom or something. But even that's changed now. It's like, like I was talking about this the other day, the sketch show has died now because of social media. I just don't think, when was the last time you sit down to watch a half an hour sketch show? Why would you? There's like, you literally just, YouTube itself or TikTok is a sketch show that's unlimited time. You just stop when you don't want to watch it anymore. And I think it's
or your legs getting them on the toilet.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good point actually as well, though. It's like, everything's changed now. So see, the things that I wanted to do. This is another reason why I think it's bad to have really solid plans in place, because everything's changed. So Live at the Apollo as a stand-up comedian used to be the biggest possible thing to achieve, right? It was just that was it. Whereas it's still a great show, but it's not so much that now. That's not the thing it used to be, because I think with obviously just the internet's massive now. I think that going viral seems to be more important now. And it's like, content is king now in comedy. Do you know what I mean? It really is. And so I think that's kind of strange. Like, even writing a sitcom now for me seems weird. Like, is that the way to go now? I just don't think it is. Like, it's, I don't know if people write like that now, think like that, going off, I write a sitcom and get that commissioned, then boom, I've made it. I don't know if it's like that anymore. I just don't know.
Well, moving on.
I sounded really morbid, didn't I? I just don't know anymore.
It's fine. It's fine. There's no need to apologise. So you spoke about obviously stuff working with the crowd and whatnot. Same set, but it can hit different and stuff like that. Have you ever had sort of an altercation with anyone in the crowd, or like a worse set that you can remember, and you're like, oh, that was?
I mean, nothing. Yes, there was one I remember specifically, but like that doesn't happen often. In the sense of like, it's a really like, Jesus, I need to tell everybody. There's always knobheads in the audience. That will always crop up every few weekends. There's always two guys that drink too much that think they get the balls to start shouting stuff out, and it's never funny. It just sometimes I've seen somebody heckle and it's hilarious and it can make the show. I actually don't mind people heckling. Like, some comedians hate it. I actually quite like it, because sometimes if they say the right thing, you just get the biggest laughs of the night. If it relates to something else that somebody else has said, it can be a really beautiful thing actually. Whereas just going is not good. It just breaks the tension of what you're building, and it's horrible. There was one time I did have it was another comedian had a go at me on stage and started shouting at me. which was really, he had already been on, and I went on after that, and he just started shouting and stuff. Oh no, because he was speaking during my set. He was sat in the front row and he started talking with his mates. I was saying, "So, all right, mate." I said, I didn't speak for your set," kind of thing on stage, and then he freaked out, started shouting at me, and stuff. But it turned out that there was another comedian that was on, or something, that had been messaging him or something, or they had some history in some form, and he thought that that was me. That was, but it's just because the two of us was there, and he just thought that I was the guy, but it was the guy that was in the back of the room. But we did look similar. We're just both two white, average-looking dudes, and that's what had happened. And so I didn't realize that. So it was very confusing for me. But yeah, I didn't enjoy that one. That was weird. But that it very rarely happens. I think. I mean, there's some comedians that will always have that one story. I had somebody have an epileptic fit once during my set. That was interesting. Well, it was. Do you know what's really bad about that? In my head, of course, I'm worried, but the comedian side of my brain's going, "I'm having a really good mate. Like, good gig. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are you doing, mate? Stop having an epileptic fit."
Was your brain not going down the road of I need to grab something from this, like
well,
joke?
it's weirdly, it just. I mean, when something bad like that happens, I mean, the whole audience, it's like the blinders come off because it's with stand up. It's like, it's amazing. It's like you're creating this weird environment where, because the thing is, do you know what I've always said about comedy? You don't laugh that much at comedy. Like, you're not sitting in the house watching a stand up thing like bellowing, laughing. But it's like the reason live stand up is so good. It's like permission to laugh. So it's kind of like this drunk thing that you get drunk with laughter, and then you're laughing more than you would in the house, and it's a great thing. But if somebody starts having an epileptic bloody fit, let me tell you, that goes. And because everybody's more obviously really concerned, and then I am as well. I can't keep being a comedian when there's somebody having a fit. I can't be like, oh, bloody hell, shaky. Like, I can't do that. I have to be like, I have to go, is there anybody in here that can help this dude? Because I think he's quite unwell. He's having something wrong with him. And I had to, during that one, I just had to come off stage. Of course I did. So I just was like, well, thanks, guys. But even saying I've been Joe McTernan, I think I just awkwardly just had to go. And I think the compere came back on and said, oh, we'll go for a break. But honestly, but these things happen. You know, it's like, I actually think it's madness how little they do happen, though. Like, I think there's always a part of me that thinks at any point this could get ruined. Because, you know, it just takes one thing to ruin a gig. Sometimes it's like, I once had a dog come into my show at the Fringe, and the dog kept reacting to everything I did. And if I did a really high energy bit, the dog would get quite scared and like look at me and stuff. So I had to go over and clap the dog and stuff to go, no, it's okay. Never again will I let dogs in, because the whole time the audience are going, I'm trying to laugh at the guy, but look at the doggy.
Yeah.
And even I was doing that. I can't help it.
It puts you off as well, because you've got that extra layer of what you've got to think about as well.
Always. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's part of the job. You know what I mean? It's like, I would never, I really, there's a story recently. I remember there was like a baby crying in the audience or something. There was a big thing. I don't know who the comedian was, but there was a whole thing about that. And I kind of did think, yeah, to bring in a crying baby into a comedy gig, it's not the best environment. And I think that the person was a bit offended, was like, well, I should be allowed to bring my kid. And I'm like, nah, though, no, because it's an over 18 experience. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't even really be in here. And it's also just not the right environment for it. Because if a baby starts crying, that will ruin a gig. It just will. You know, if it keeps happening as well. And it's not like everybody's going, oh, don't have babies, but it's just going, come on, like, don't. But then it is the job sometimes, and I you know, sometimes you have to let your ego go and realize, oh, this isn't going to be a good feeling for me tonight. You know, I'm not going to smash this gig and it's just going to go great. I'm having to deal with some of this stuff that's kicking off, and sometimes when you've got hecklers and things like that, you just kind of have to accept that that's the job. And the thing is, at the end of the day, the audience, I mean, that is their weekend. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, they're coming out and drinking and stuff. You know, there's a fine line between, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, you know, you would like everybody just to sit quietly and stuff, but some people haven't even been to comedy before. and they don't know what it is. So then they start shouting out because they've maybe seen one video of comedian destroys heckler, and then they think that's what's going to happen. But I'm a big panicking, anxious mess. I'm not going to, start having a go at Davey in the front row. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't know what you're getting yourself in for either.
No, exactly.
So, looking forward then, Joe, what's sort of on the horizon and then further forward for you? I know you said you don't like planning.
Well, no, it's not. It's so. I mean, the thing is, obviously, I mean, I just got signed recently with an agent, and they're brilliant. And
no
the
bragging.
guy, I know, but there's obviously there's a couple of work in the company, but I speak to my Dean a lot. I mean, Dean, and he's my agent now, but Dean's like a friend from years ago as well. It's kind of mad that he's now my agent. It's just weird how that worked out. But he's brilliant, and we do speak every week, sort of with a plan of what we need to do. This is why they're so good, because obviously sometimes people get agents and it's kind of like, get me on the telly, bye. But he's not like that. He's kind of like, right, let's work together. What's the plan? So his big thing is, right, hit this amount of followers on Instagram, and then we can maybe approach certain people like TV companies and stuff. So then if I've got a couple of scripts and stuff. So I think that's the next thing, is maybe just start just put me out there a bit. I'd love to do some like acting and stuff, like, and things that aren't my own stuff. I'd love to be, auditioning more for stuff. I used to act like a lot, but I started to, obviously after the pandemic, I sort of stopped it. But I want to get back into that, obviously. But yeah, there's nothing really specific. I've got my Fringe show obviously next year, so that's going to be my debut. I've been put, so you don't know if you know, but the debuts, like, it doesn't matter if you've done the Fringe before. If you've done like 45 minutes, you've not done your debut hour yet. So I've only been doing 45s every year for the last 5 years. And I've specifically waited until I do my debut, because the debut is when, you can be up for like best newcomer and everything. Not that I think I'll ever win that, but it's just, it's introducing you to the, as an act at the Fringe kind of thing. So that's next year. So I've been writing that. Hopefully a little tour after that, depending on, I mean, I need to actually find out from my followers on Insta and stuff if people would actually come see me do stand up, because if that even transfers into like sort of people buying tickets and things like that. But I'd like to do maybe a little tour after that. But yeah, apart from that, I don't, as I say, have anything solidly. I've just put myself out there, and just hopefully the universe will send something back good. But well, I don't know. What about you? What's your plan?
Just cracking on with this, really. Just keeping this, trucking and going along and picking up the followers and listeners and stuff like that, really.
It's just that, isn't it? It is just keeping going. I think that's the best thing to do. Just keep going.
Yeah.
And yeah, man.
I mean, it's been for me, this doing this podcast, it's evolved so much for me, like, since I started. And one of the reasons I didn't have it on video to start with was because I didn't have very good equipment. And the setting, I was at my old man's at the time, so it was sort of like the visual wouldn't have been great. But then talking to a few people, they're like, don't worry about what the video looks like, just make sure you've got the video and get it on YouTube. Yep. But then you speak to some other people and they're like, wait until everything's perfect, because I heard a quote the other day, actually, and it was, no one's waiting for something they don't know about. Yeah. And it's like, no one knows I'm doing this podcast until they hear it or they come across it in some way, shape or form. So if I didn't release my first episode until this year, no one outside of my friend group would have made no difference. They'd have been like, oh, he's been planning that for a year. No one else would know that.
No.
So there's sort of that side of it, which has been, that's where it was. Once I got all my Shure stuff and my, the sort of better equipment and my lighting and stuff, which I was a bit lazy to, and I haven't actually put them up because they're like literally they're like studio lights that I have to build every single time, and that is quite annoying. But yeah, now I've got all of that. Yeah. It's like, I'm like, I want to do it on video, and like I say, a lot of them are over Zoom and stuff like that. And it would just be amazing if I could get this to a stage where this is, this becomes my income. Then I can, because I have taken the whole studio to, like the last guy I had on was a tetraplegic,
Right.
I say last guy. This will be episode 45. I think that's episode 36. So I'm sort of way ahead, which I'm liking as well. I'm sort of 2 months ahead.
Just brilliant.
On
That's
episodes
great.
and stuff like that. And that's why I don't tend to talk about sort of in the news topics, like on topic stuff, because it's not going to be, it's going to be 10 weeks away. So if we're talking about whatever's in the news today, it won't be relevant when people listen to this. Although it doesn't really matter. I have touched on stuff in back in the day, like in other podcasts, but yeah, we don't. That's why I like to have, people like yourself where your story and there's no sort of time constraints on that. But yeah, I can take the podcast to out and about with me basically, and that's what I'd love to do. I'd love to just travel around the UK and even Europe really, and rock up at people's or a local studio or whatever, hire it out for the day and and do it all sort of properly. That's the aim for me. That's what I would want to do.
Well, it's like you're saying though. I mean, keeping in mind, look at the stuff you've got now, like all the equipment and everything. You didn't have that when you probably started the first one, right?
Yeah, no,
I don't know, the lights and everything like that. So it just shows. I mean, like it's actually a good point that it's like you actually look at it, like what you've actually managed to. You've actually probably came on so much further than you'll ever think, because it becomes so like you're just used to just setting up your stuff now and things. But like, so surely by next year it probably will be closer to that. I think if you keep going the same way as I've just done with my stuff, it's like it's just the best thing to do, because it'll just, if you're like, that's a good goal to have in mind, because what you're saying, it's not like really specific, but it's just going, I know it's this that I want to be doing in my life. So
100%.
But no, I think you'll
when I was when I was a kid growing up, my aim was to be a footballer. That was all I wanted to do. That was I woke up, lived, breathed it. That was it. And then obviously once I joined the military, it was the same. I was still playing football a lot, so I was still like, this could be still on the cards. I could maybe not Premiership, but a level where I would be able to be paid to play. And then, but since then, and since leaving the military, I've not had something that I've been like, this is what I want to do, and I know that that's what I want to do. And now that I've come across this, and I am like, all in on it. Really, I'm like every single second I'm not working, I'm doing this because this is what I want to be doing for working. So if I can get up and go to do a job that I don't mind the job I have now. It's not a hard job by any stretch of the imagination. But if I can get up to do that, then I should be able to put effort into my dream.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. And it's like, I think the fact that you're even thinking like that is like, that's half the battle, I think, genuinely, is just kind of having a slight idea that it's not even specifically what you're going to do. It's just going, this is where I feel right. And it's a really brilliant thing when it happens. It sounds like you've had the similar thing to when I started doing stand-up. It's just like something clicks and goes, yeah, this is it. This is what you want to be doing. And God, I think that's important. I don't think enough people do that and just go, look, because there's so many people that are unhappy in their work 100%. And they'll have a dream and they just won't do it because it seems so impossible. And the thing is, it is. Like, it absolutely is. I mean, like, anything that we're doing here, it is ridiculous when you think about it, that you're like trying to just do something that you've literally designed yourself from scratch and made it. And it's like, and it's such a crazy feeling to people that that's the case in life. But it is that. And but as we were saying, none of the two of us had any of this when we started. We literally were in that position.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing thing to know. It's hard work, but it's not as hard as people think. I think it's just the time. It's not even about how hard you have to work. There'll be hard days and there'll be easy days, but it is just like we were saying, it's the time of just committing to something for so long. And it's not easy for everybody to do that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, for so long, I couldn't gig anywhere outside of Scotland because I didn't have enough money to get on a train, and there's some people that'll say to you, oh, you got to travel about and gig everywhere. You're like, I can't. I've literally got no money to do it. So obviously there's that, but incrementally as you build, you're like, it's like you say, like, you might make enough money, save up and get a new camera that you want or something. Yeah. And that's like, again, it's like the little baby steps, isn't it? That just sort of.
Yeah. And that's what it's been. It's always just evolved since I got my first kit. Like the first kit that I had was like 150 quid, 2 mics, for everything. it was like 150 quid. Well, these mics are more than that alone.
Oh God, I imagine. Yeah.
So it's all like, it's just that sort of stuff, and I've just, you know, slowly bought everything that I've needed. To get better and to further, you know, my equipment's got better as I've got better as an interviewer, I believe.
Yeah.
And
how were you in the first one? Were you quite jangly on your first time doing this? Like I guess you didn't know.
My first, I don't know. I like to think I'm quite a friendly person. I chat to anyone anyway. But like, how you touched on there about like doing this is a weird thing. It's a strange thing to do, like with the stand-up as well. And it is, because if I just randomly messaged you and said, do you want to come on here and just have a chat as we have, you'd be like, I'm all right, fella. But because there's an end to it, and it's going to be produced and it'll be, you know, put out to the world on YouTube and all the rest of it, there's something in it for you, but it's not just some weirdo messaging you that wants to see your face while he talks to you. Which is what it is.
I don't like that you're cut off at the shoulders. I don't know what's going on here, fella.
I'm not standing up because you don't want to see. But no, it's a weird thing to have. I always think that when I message people, I always think like, do they just think I'm winding them up and I just want to keep an archive of random people that I've chatted to?
Well, look, I don't think it did. No, because when you messaged me, I was like, of course, I clicked on the profile, and if your profile had been like a picture of a cat and like a pizza or something, and nothing else, and I'd have been like, what, is this a scam or something? Like, it's weird. But when you click on your page, it's clear that you've been working on. See, this is what we were saying. I was just saying before. When you go on your page, very clearly you're a podcast that's been working on a lot of stuff for a while. So you know, it looks good, sort of thing. But I always said this. For so long I wasn't anywhere, and I've always thought if anybody ever reaches out and asks me and I'd like to be on something, I'd always hope that I would be able to do it, because I was there myself. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that this is where you are, but when I started like doing obviously filming and stuff, like, you know, I asked people for stuff, you know, sometimes big comedians and stuff, and it's so shocking that we don't realize this. A lot of people will say yes. Like, because a lot of people will see themselves in you and they'll go, well, God, I remember starting out, I could never get a bloody leg up anywhere. So people tend, so I don't know if you ever thought of doing that. Like, have you ever thought about messaging someone that you go, God, I'd never be able to get them. But have you ever like thought, oh, I'll try though, I'll message somebody?
Yeah, I'll message some people that are like, especially like the blue tick people.
Yeah.
Like they say, they've got the blue tick, and I'm like, I'll try it. I haven't had anyone come back to me as of yet that as sort of famous people. I've had a couple of blue ticks on air actually. But yeah,
that's great.
We're running real close to time.
I've honestly, my little eyes are going like up. Like, I see what you mean. Like,
do you want to just give everyone your tags and then we'll close this off?
Yeah, just type in Joe McTernan on all my social media and you will find me, I'm sure.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
It's a pleasure. It's lovely to be asked, man. I've enjoyed it.
And we'll see you again soon, everybody.
See ya.
See you later.
Bye.